You guys can start lining up in the chat. All right, we'll have Doug come up here now. Cotter, you can kick it off whenever you get settled. Silenced. Ready. It's unmuted. Ready. Camera ahead. Yeah. How's it going?
Hey, Doug, how's it going?
It's going well.
What was it like being out there today? You didn't get this chance last year for spring ball. What was it like today to be out there just, in shells, I know, but just feeling?
Yeah, I think, anytime you get back out onto the field after, training for weeks and, having the break after the season, it's always exciting to get back out there. Obviously we got the new staff, so it's a little bit different. And that, adds to the excitement, that adds to, the anticipation that you had the past 8 weeks. Just, having those meetings, getting ready for it, leading up to it. And, now it's here. So it's time to put in the work.
Thanks, Doug.
Yep.
Doug, there's obviously a lot of talk among this new coaching staff about Brandin and trying to get him to talk. Having known him as well as you do, and playing a position where it would seem like you would need communication with the quarterback, I've really never gotten the sense that that was really ever a problem since Brandon's gotten here. Can you kind of talk about, what he's like, in the midst of a game, and if it's ever been kind of an issue that he's kind of a lead by example kind of guy?
Yeah, I don't know if it's necessarily a problem. I just think, with the new staff coming in, they're looking at our entire, roster and saying, all right, what can each guy improve on? What can Brandin improve on as a player? They've done the same things with, me, all the O-line guys. What can we do to get better as players and people off the field? But no, it hasn't been an issue, in the game. In the game, obviously, you guys have seen a couple times he's gotten pretty animated. He can get excited too. I've lived with him for 2 years now, so coming into a locker room, obviously you can be, it's a new environment, so you can be a little nervous at first, but as you are around the guys enough, you come out of your shell a lot more, and Brandin definitely has.
What's from your perspective as a veteran guy and a guy that's come back for another year, what's the level of excitement for having a different staff maybe try to get you to do new things that maybe you've never been asked to do in your college career, or just try to new techniques or just new stuff that they have ideas for you?
Yeah, I love it. Anytime you can get better as a player, whether that's schematically, little technique things that you can do, especially for offensive line. There's a million different things that you can learn, and it's always, evolving, and you can keep getting better. So, I've learned, something new every single time I've walked into, Coach B's meetings, the team meetings, or, whether it's an O-line meeting or an offensive meeting, I've learned something new every single time. And, that stays, constant, today, I'm sure I'll learn something new as well.
Thanks, Doug. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Hey, Doug, I'm curious about the schedule. Like, you guys had those 8 weeks with Tank, and which has really pushed spring like later into the calendar here. This seems like, to me, kind of fairly unique. What do you think about the way that it's lined up, and how did those 8 weeks maybe help you guys going into this, like the actual football portion of this?
Yeah, I think, after last season, it was definitely, good to get the break. It was obviously very different last season, and, coming into it, it was nice to get that initial break, and then, 8 weeks to kind of reset. And, obviously with the new staff coming in, it was important to learn, all about the strength stuff, all about the coaching staff. And that's what that 8 weeks really was. It was a way for us to, form that initial relationship. So once that we got to spring, we have full trust in this coaching staff, and, we believe in them and the messages that they're, presenting to us. But it's definitely, we didn't have a spring last year, so I'm not really used to, when spring starts and ends.
I wanted to ask about the staff because a lot of you super seniors, I guess, have done things like you got used to doing things a certain way, just given the, just the same coaching staff for your first 4 years. How has this coaching staff like maybe met you guys in the middle? Is there an example of a way that they've, that you can think that they've helped you out and kind of adapting to what they want to get done?
I would say, in the offensive line room, a lot of the stuff is, pretty new. The techniques that we're going to be using, things like that. Obviously, basic schemes that, everyone runs, that'll be the same generally. But I would say that one thing that, stuck from one staff to another, and really for three offensive line coaches for me is O-line pride. I'm sure you guys have seen, a lot of us guys, the offensive line use that term. But that's something that, that's huge in our offensive line room. And that started, before I got here. So, I think it's awesome that, Coach Miller was super open to keeping that and learning more about it and also adding, new things into it that he believes we should be looking forward to.
Appreciate it, Doug. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hey, Doug, good to see you. Kind of building off a couple different questions, I guess. Well, what has it been like just to work under Brett Bielema and his staff? I mean, how have things felt significantly different for you working with this staff versus working with Lovie Smith's staff? And like you said, the previous coordinators, the previous O-line coordinators?
Yeah, I would say that, there's definitely differences. Obviously, Coach Smith and Coach Bielema have completely different, personalities. I would say that, since Coach B got here, he's put a massive emphasis on communication, building relationships between the guys, building that trust. And, a lot of that happened in that 8 weeks and, it'll still continue to grow throughout the spring. But he's put a massive emphasis on that, which, as a player, you got to love because you want to have that full trust in your coaches. But yeah, I'd say, that's one thing that kind of sticks out for me. And then in terms of offensive line coaches, it's pretty similar. Both guys are different. Both guys believe in different philosophies and, that comes out in their coaching and that comes out in the way they build relationships.
And then, like you said, you didn't have spring ball last year, and I know you've gone through spring ball before, but I guess what are your expectations for these next 15 practices, I guess 14 practices now, especially based on, what happened those previous 8 weeks, like you said?
Yeah, I think, this specific spring ball is huge for us. With the new staff coming in, you have to learn the new playbook. You got to get, normalized, I guess, with the way that, the coaches coach, what they're expecting from you. What they're expecting from you as a leader, what they're expecting from you, as an offensive lineman on the field. So all that stuff is massive for this spring. And, I would say just, burying yourself in that playbook and getting used to that and getting used to the new ways to call stuff. That's massive for, the position that I play.
Thank you, Doug.
Thanks.
Hey, Doug, hope you're well, man. Just wondering about Vertus after a year of starting. What kind of growth have you seen from him, and what kind of growth do you expect out of a guy after a year of experience like that?
Yeah, I think, last season Vertus came a really long way. He grew up a little bit last year for sure. Getting the first game experience is huge. And really, this season, it's all about building on, what he did last year, the playing time that he got, just keep on building, keep on chipping away every single day.
You said he grew up a lot. In what ways do you think he grew up a lot?
I think, he got a lot more comfortable, talking, making some calls, and really just diving into football a little bit more than he did, when he was younger. The same way that I did when I was younger. It took older guys kind of helping me along the way to realize that, hey, we're going into this game. Maybe we need to watch, this specific tape. We got to look at these blitzes. So, I mean, that's exactly what he did. He just put his head down and kept grinding.
Thanks, Doug.
Thanks.
Doug, when did you realize that you could actually do this, come back for an extra year? When did you start planning on it and decide? And how much of it had to do with that entire group of offensive linemen coming back together?
I think I'm not exactly sure right when it happened. Obviously during the season, I didn't think about it much. I just tried to focus on, the games that we were playing, the games that we had left. But I think, after the season, a couple of people around the facility definitely mentioned it to me specifically just because I missed, a couple of games due to getting quarantined and stuff like that. And things didn't go exactly the way that I, wanted them to or planned. So that's definitely when I started thinking about it and, having those conversations in the locker room or, at our apartments with V and some of the other guys. That definitely played a huge role. These specific offensive linemen and, the other older guys that stayed on this team, I'm really close with, and, I consider some of my best friends. So them coming back was definitely huge for me when I was making my decision.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Hey, Doug, I'm curious, for you personally, what's the biggest adjustment with the staff? Is it the schemes and the playbook, or is it just like learning everything about how they operate, what they expect? Is there one that's easier or more difficult than the other?
I think both have their own challenges, and I think both of them kind of work with each other. I think learning a scheme is definitely, it's tough, but, if you put enough time in, you can definitely learn that, and you can learn it, decently quickly. Not learn it well enough to coach it yourself or teach someone else it, but you can definitely learn it. But both of those things take time to do. And, like I said before, that's what we started with that week 1 of these past 8 weeks. And that's what we'll continue with, throughout these next 5 weeks. But it's definitely a transition, just being around new coaches, just learning what they expect and things like that.
And if I could really quickly, Coach Bielema talked about these football 101 sessions that he does. Do you remember the first time that was introduced to you, and like, what have you learned, or is that something like fairly unique to like have a designation to what to call it on those?
Yeah, I think, everyone in the past for me has just called it, you got to learn football. I think Coach B is the first one that has, a specific name for it. And, I think it's good because right when he says it, exactly, you're probably going to learn something that you've never heard before, because he has a ton of experience. And, that's, like I said, every single team meeting, I'm definitely learning something new. That's critical for the game of football.
Awesome, Doug. Thank you.
Thanks.
Doug, quick follow-up. You've been around Illinois football for a while, obviously. How much are you looking forward to that opportunity to play that Monday Night Football spring game, have it be on BTN? Is that something you're especially looking forward to in this last year?
Yeah, I think it's going to be, a lot of fun. Obviously, it'll be a little bit different than, the games that we'll play in the fall, but at the same time, there's going to be a ton of excitement. I'm sure, everyone will look forward to seeing what we're going to roll out there on the field and, looking at all the new things that are going to happen. But I'm definitely excited. It's a chance to compete. It's a chance to compete, under the lights in Memorial Stadium. We can't get any better than that.
Thanks, Doug.
Thanks.
Doug, quickly to add on to Joey's question, is learning a new scheme, is the cliche correct that it's like learning another foreign language, or is it a little less complicated than that? In a sense, when you sit down and you're first trying to grasp a new scheme.
I would say I don't know any other foreign languages, so that sounds a lot harder to me. I think some schemes Some general concepts carry over from playbook to playbook. But really the biggest thing that changes is terminology and, different ways of understanding the game. It's really like what are the coaches looking at that's different from, what have the past coaches looked at? That's really, the most confusing for me, definitely.
So you actually do, when you're learning a new scheme, kind of go back to, okay, this is kind of like what I learned here, or you try to wipe your mind clean and just try to, just learn it from scratch, or do you try to do some comparison to what you've already learned in previous years?
I think there's definitely some comparison. It just carries over, and sometimes, it'll be the same scheme, just called, a different thing. So, based on, if Coach Miller is going to call it something completely different, then obviously you got to learn the new scheme and make sure, you're keeping up with what he wants. But definitely you can use all the knowledge that you've learned in the past to help you learn this new playbook.
Thanks, Doug. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Anything else for Doug? Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it. Have a good one, guys.
Thanks, Doug.